3, Scene 1 of The Duchess of Malfi. On come Antonio and Delio. Delio's been away for a while, and here they're reunited, and Antonio sets about reminding us of that fact straight away. Oh, noble friend, my most beloved Delio. They're friends, of course. Oh, you've been a stranger long at court. Came you along with Lord Ferdinand? So he's just reminding us there, if you haven't been paying attention in the auditorium, that Delio has been away for a while, and Ferdinand has been away from court for a while. He's been away, busy with some war or other, and of course this has given the Duchess the opportunity to misbehave. Not misbehave in our eyes, but to defy the order that Ferdinand has given earlier in the play, that she is not to remarry. And in fact, whilst he's been away, she's been having lots of children, as we're about to find out. So Antonio, this is really just a bit of stagecraft. It's good writing by Webster. He's just reminding us here of the plot, which is that Ferdinand's been away, Delio's been away. Delio's now come back. I did, sir, and how fares your noble Duchess? So he did come back with Lord Ferdinand. Ferdinand back, so we can assume that we'll see him fairly shortly. I did, sir, and how fares your noble Duchess? Okay, well, it's kind of weak, sort of small talk, really, but it's kind of necessary to remind us, to give us an update, really. And Antonio gives us that update in a fairly bland way. Right, fortunately well. She's an excellent feeder of pedigrees. This is because she's been bearing him children, so she has... your pedigree is your social status, your blood status. So she's been bearing him children of high birth. She is an excellent feeder of pedigrees. Since you last saw her, she hath had 2 children more, a son and a daughter. So this is an important information update. It's not given with great style or playfulness, and I've just written here, it's important information for us, though Antonio is terribly serious about it all. It's not a particularly sprightly... He's not a particularly sprightly or witty character that's coming out now. I mean, he does have his moments in this play, but we might consider whether he is quite a naturalistic depiction. We don't love Antonio. We don't despise him either. He's got some weaknesses, and those will come to the fore as the play progresses. So he's just a bit serious here. How's your Duchess? Oh, she's very well, thank you. Sort of responding to questions literally and directly. There's no way Bosola would reply to that kind of question in such a literal and direct way. Anyway, Bosola's not on stage at the moment. It's just Antonio and Delio. Methinks 'twas yesterday. Methinks 'twas yesterday that I saw you last. Let me but wink as in blink, close my eyes. Let me but wink, and not behold your face, which to mine eye is somewhat leaner. Verily, I should dream it were within this half hour. He's saying, if I closed my eyes and didn't see your face, which tells me that time has passed because you look a bit older. If I closed my eyes, I would think that the last time I saw you was half an hour ago. So he's really saying, gosh, time flies. Doesn't time fly? And of course, this is a joke. It's an in-joke with the audience about the illusion of theatre, because the reality is it's a couple of minutes, or a few minutes since we saw them last on the stage. So it's a sort of a wry joke by Webster going, oh, I could have sworn I only saw you a few minutes ago, and we're being invited to imagine that in fact 3 years have passed. And that's quite a forced thing for us to imagine, but it's something that we're willing to imagine in the interests of enjoying a good story and enjoying the theatre. So Webster's just kind of playing on that and having a joke with the audience. And it's a moment of humour in this play, which is full of humour, but of course does also become very bloody and dark as it progresses. So that mixture of humour and tragedy makes it intense, really. Especially as during this scene, we know now there are secrets. We know there are going to be repercussions for the Duchess's disobedience. Antonio carries on. You have not been in law, friend Delio, nor in prison, nor a suitor of court, nor begged the reversion of some great man's place, nor troubled with an old wife, which doth make your time so insensibly hasten. So he's just kind of continuing the joke here. He's sort of wondering what Delio's been up to that could make the time fly like that. Delio just ignores his joke, really. Pray, sir, tell me, hath not this news arrived yet to the ear of the Lord Cardinal? Does the Cardinal know about your children with the Duchess? Because he and Ferdinand have forbidden her to remarry. Antonio, I fear it hath. Ah, okay, that would be a problem. The Lord Ferdinand, that's newly come to court, just in case you had forgotten, audience, just in case you hadn't been paying attention when I last reminded you of this fact. The Lord Ferdinand, that's newly as in recently, newly come to court, doth bear himself right dangerously. To bear yourself is to carry yourself, or just to behave. He's thinking about Ferdinand's body language and general physical conduct. Doth bear himself right dangerously. He's behaving suspiciously. He's lurking, eavesdropping, looking suspicious. That seems to be the suggestion. And Webster here is preparing us to notice this thing. He's preparing us to notice a different Ferdinand when he comes back on stage. Of course, he could show us that just by bringing Ferdinand on and writing this different behaviour into the script, and he does do that, but he's also preparing us for that. Belt and braces from Webster, and it helps to create suspense in the scene. Pray, why doth he bear himself right dangerously? Or in other words, how do you know? Antonio, he is so quiet that he seems to sleep the tempest out, so to sleep out a storm, as dormice do in winter. It's almost as if he's gone into hibernation, he's suggesting. Those houses that are haunted are most still till the devil be up. So a haunted house is the quietest house, and Ferdinand is quiet. He seems haunted, disturbed, and in a strange kind of hibernation. And there may well be a tempest in his mind, and we know he's wild, unpredictable. So the tempest selection of vocabulary there, that metaphor, a storm, is appropriate and helps to build the tension. What say the common people? What do the people say about the situation, or these rumours, if there are any rumours about the Duchess? Antonio, the common rabble do directly say she is a strumpet. Okay, difficult to completely disguise or conceal the fact that you've got children, and so the public have concluded that she's a strumpet. That's a derogatory term for a prostitute. He's saying she's a whore. That's what the common people think. Delio replies, and your graver heads, which would be politic, what sense are they? What do the more sensible, discreet people say? That's what politic means. Politic is discreet, careful, strategic. What do the more serious people say? So there's this kind of divide between the people of the court and the common rabble, as they're referred to there. They do observe, Antonio replies, they do observe I grow to infinite purchase. You can you can work out what this means, really. You purchase things, you consume, you acquire. And we're talking about how the common people perceive how things are developing at the court. They do observe I grow to infinite purchase. I'm acquiring, purchasing lots of things. So the common people have noticed that Antonio has been doing quite well for himself. The left-hand way. The left hand is the sinister hand. Sinistra in Italian, or indeed Latin, means left. So the the public have assumed that Antonio is corrupt, and that's why he's perhaps walking around in fine clothes and enjoying property. And all suppose the Duchess would amend it if she could. So they all assume that the Duchess would deal with his corruption if she could. So this is the explanation that the public have invented for Antonio's kind of status and the grace and favour that he's clearly receiving, as of course we know that he's the Duchess's lover, so he's being better looked after than we might expect from a servant. But the public don't suspect what's really going on. They just think he's corrupt, and that if the Duchess could do anything about it, she would. For, they say, great princes, though they grudge their officers, should have such large and Great princes, though they grudge their officers, should have such large and unconfined means to get wealth under them. So, although they begrudge their kind of senior servants benefiting, maybe even parasitical. So, although they begrudge their senior servants benefiting, perhaps by means of corruption, from serving them, they will not complain, lest in case thereby, by doing that, so in case by doing that, by complaining, they should make them odious unto the people. Now, answers on a postcard here. Does that mean that in case they should make them, the princes, odious unto the people, or that they should make them, the servants, odious, meaning hateful, unto the people? That doesn't make complete sense to me. So you've got to decide there. But the real point here is toleration of corruption for political purposes. The people have assumed that there are tactical reasons for the Duchess not dealing with this supposed corruption. And the irony is, of course, there are tactical reasons for the Duchess not dealing with Antonio's wealth, except they're just not the reasons the public think. For other obligation of love or marriage between her and me, they never dream of. They've got no idea. They're completely oblivious to the reality. How plausible you find that is something to think about. Not that it matters if it's highly implausible. Let's move on. Delio at this point cues Ferdinand to come in. The Lord Ferdinand is going to bed, and in comes the Duchess, Ferdinand, and attendants. Now, this is good kind of crafting. Excuse me. There's good crafting by Webster here, because he brings Ferdinand on immediately announcing that he's going to bed, and he brings Ferdinand on like he's already in conversation with the Duchess. So he doesn't need to begin the conversation, and it's easy for him to end the conversation because Ferdinand's going to bed. So we can have kind of a short but intense and meaningful exchange. So there's a good bit of crafting of the drama there. We've got this mid-conversation entrance plus a pretext for ending the conversation, and that allows for a brief and intense dialogue. And so it turns out to be. I'll instantly to bed, for I am weary. I am to bespeak a husband for you. He just kind of drops that in incidentally. So it's kind of something casual about the way that he introduces this subject matter here. We know that Anthony suspects Ferdinand, so we're immediately suspicious of this casual way that he drops this into conversation. I'm going to bed. Oh, by the way, I've found a husband for you. To bespeak is to prescribe. So there seems to be a change in tack here. He said you're not going to be remarry originally, but now he says I found a husband for you. The Duchess. For me, sir, pray, who is it? The great Count Malatesti. That's a bit of a word joke there. Mal means bad. Testi, well, could mean head. Could mean testicles. So it's just a bit of a joke there. I mean, he's not a serious character. Fie upon him, says the Duchess. A count? He's a mere stick of sugar candy. Interestingly, a phrase I think that is used in Breakfast at Tiffany's. You may look quite through him. When I choose a husband, I will marry for your honour. I mean, clear enough. She's dismissing the count as frivolous, insubstantial. A stick of sugar candy is lacking in complexity or substance. And of course, the Duchess is what I've suggested, a savoury character here. She's not a stick of sugar candy. She's spicy. She's well, kind of. If you imagine characters as a cooked dish, then she's very well seasoned. And the Count Malatesti is a long way from being that. And she's kind of sucking up to Ferdinand at this point. I will marry for your honour. Ferdinand, again, feigning, acting his complacency here, which we've been alerted to by Antonio. You shall do well in it. So that's good. That's a good idea to marry for my honour. You'll be rewarded for complying with my wishes. How is it, worthy Antonio? So that's interesting. He just he just says hello to Antonio there. There's no reply. Is Ferdinand suspecting Antonio at this point? There's that would be easy to act at this point. Is he suspecting Antonio? Antonio doesn't reply. But, sir, I am to have a private conference with you about a scandalous report. Here we go, the rumours. Is spread touching mine honour. So I need to talk to you about these vicious rumours that have been circulating about me. Now, Ferdinand, the card that Ferdinand plays here is one of complete confidence and trust in the Duchess. So the suggestion is he's trying to lull her into a false sense of security here. If indeed he does suspect her. We've been tipped off by Antonio. Antonio thinks that he suspects something. And usually in Jacobean theatre, if one character thinks that another character does suspect, then that's usually going to be the case. So Ferdinand here appears to be trying to put the Duchess completely at her ease. Let me ever be deaf to it. Let me be deaf to these rumours. I don't want to hear about them. One of Pasquale's paper bullets. A paper bullet. An insubstantial, a stupid little thing. A paper bullet. Imagine, blowing a paper bullet through a straw. Court calumny. Nonsense. A pestilent air. A whiff of something in the air, which princes' palaces are seldom purged of. Princes' palaces are rarely without this kind of nonsense. Yet, say that it were true, I'd pour it in your bosom. My fixed love would strongly excuse, extenuate, nay, deny faults were they apparent in you. Go, be safe in your own innocency. So, if it were true, my fixed love would strongly excuse, extenuate, nay, deny faults were they apparent in you. But if the rumour were true, I wouldn't even mind. That can't be what he's saying. It's a bit ambiguous there, but either way, he's lining up behind the Duchess, at least on the surface. Go, be safe in your own innocency. So, off you go. Don't worry about it. And the Duchess, in an aside to us, says, "Oh, blessed comfort, this deadly air is purged." unless you want to act it very differently, the strong implication there seems to be dramatically that she believes him and that she trusts him. So there's an uncomfortable dramatic irony here in that we feel quite strongly that Ferdinand is on to the Duchess, but also we don't feel that she's alert to the danger. So there's a strong dramatic irony there. And then off she goes with Delio and the attendants, leaving Ferdinand on his own, and immediately joined by Bosola. Her guilt treads on hot burning coals. So if you tread on hot burning coals, well, you're being sort of careful. Oh no, sorry, coulters are it's the front of a ploughshare, so it's like a blade. So her guilt treads on red hot blades. So he's talking about her behaviour. He thinks she's being really shifty and careful with her behaviour, and of course immediately revealing to us that yes, he is convinced of her guilt, and that what we were just seeing was all an act. On comes Bosola. Now, Bosola, how thrives our intelligence? How are you getting on with your work as my spy? Bosola. Sir, uncertainly. Clear enough. 'Tis rumour she hath had 3 bastards. Bastards as in children, illegitimate children. It's rumoured that she's had 3 children. But by whom? We may go read of the stars. In other words, by whom I've got no idea. We might as well go and take out a horoscope. Ha! The irony there, of course, is that Bosola found, or he found the horoscope which Antony unwittingly dropped and went to find. Antony went, as soon as the first child was born, Antony went, this is in Act 2, Antony went to go and get his horoscope. And Bosola found the horoscope because Antony accidentally dropped it, and that was enough to confirm that there was a child born, but he can't work out by whom. So there's just a bit of a link there. Ferdinand, why, some hold opinion all things are written there, i.e. in the stars. Yes, if we could find spectacles to read them, I do suspect there have been some sorcery used on the Duchess. Sorcery? To what purpose? To make her dote on some desertless fellow she shames to acknowledge. There seems to be a suspicion of Antony here. Ferdinand, can your faith give way to think there's power in potions or in charms to make us love whether we will or no? Most certainly. So there's a popular kind of idea being used here from the stage. You know, the idea of a love potion is an old idea. It certainly exists. It goes back to A Midsummer Night's Dream and long before that. So it's a bit of an interesting topic for Ferdinand to introduce. Kind of shows us the kind of way his mind works. Let's go on. Ferdinand, away! These are mere gulleries, horrid things invented by some cheating mountebanks to abuse us. Oh, and he then dismisses this idea. Do you think that herbs or charms can force the will? Some trials have been made in this foolish practice, but the ingredients were lenitive poisons, such as are of force to make the patient mad. He's discrediting the idea of a love potion being used now, and straight the witch swears by equivocation they are in love. The witchcraft lies in her rank blood. Important line. The witchcraft lies in her rank blood. He dismisses the idea that there's some external force at work here on the Duchess, and he attributes this to her. The witchcraft lies in her rank blood. There is something intrinsically wrong with the Duchess, he concludes. This night I will force confession from her. Wow, that's an announcement. That sounds quite unpleasant. You told me you had got within these 2 days a false key into her bedchamber. I have. As I would wish. What do you intend to do? Can you guess? No. Bosola kind of backtracking here. I mean, Bosola's an intelligent guy, and it's pretty obvious what Ferdinand, or at least part of what Ferdinand's suggesting here. So Bosola, there's just a hint of distaste from Bosola at this point. We know there's a big class difference between Ferdinand and Bosola. We know that Bosola doesn't have a great deal of respect or reverence for those in the upper echelons of the social structure. So perhaps it's not surprising here that, given that Ferdinand seems to be rather full of himself, Bosola is almost refusing to participate in this guessing game. Well, he is refusing. He's refusing to participate in Ferdinand's guessing game. And Ferdinand, he's still playing games here. So Ferdinand, can you guess? No. Do not ask then. He that can compass me, and you know my drifts, may say he hath put a girdle about the world and sounded all her quicksands. I do not think so. What do you think then, pray? Ferdinand's still kind of inviting him to sort of play this game. And Bosola comes back with this brilliant reply. I love this line. That you are your own chronicle too much, and grossly flatter yourself. So a chronicle is like a history. So Bosola's saying that you're writing history books about yourself. You're talking about yourself too much, and you grossly flatter yourself. That's really straight talking here. It's a risk, but we know that Bosola is a bit of a risk taker. And the risk pays off because Ferdinand kind of respects him for his straight talking here. So there's a bit of contempt here. And that kind of wins us over to Bosola. He's a complex character, but the audience might well kind of be drawn to Bosola through his straight talking here. Ferdinand, give me thy hand. I thank thee for your straight talking. I never gave pension but to flatterers till I entertained thee. Farewell. That friend a great man's ruin strongly checks, who rails into his belief all his defects. So he's saying that he's been served well by Bosola. He has been checked, prevented, held back from ruin, because Bosola has railed into his belief all his defects. Bosola has made Ferdinand aware of his defects. Okay, so we're left with this suspense at the end of this rather increasingly tense scene, and clearly it's not clear what's going to happen next, but there are hints of something rather distasteful, and that will play out in the next